Jones again.
Here goes another dunk. Oh, he does a 360 spin. Oh, hello, Michael Jordan. That's awesome, baby, with a capital A.
This is as close as Indiana.
Oh, great stop. Three-point play. Oh, that's a big play, baby. Put that one down. What had happened? What a momentum build-up. The first thing you do a lot of praying. There's no way to stop Kenny Anderson one-on-one. He's the most electrifying point guard.
If you're a college basketball fan, you probably know the name Dick Vitali. The former college and NBA coach has an energy and love for the game of basketball that is uncontested, and his style and approach to analyzing the game on television is like no one else.
I really believe that Bobby Knight wants to keep Jackson away from the middle of the floor. He's so effective as a passer. And for Indiana to win, one simple theory: they better block out, baby. If they don't block out and keep Carter and Tregley and Jackson off the offensive boards, it'll be a long day. That was the General Robert Montgomery Knight. Everybody's ready to go. He's ready to go. I'm ready to go. And you're ready to go.
You're looking at play from the Nike ABCD basketball camp from this past summer. What makes this camp different is that these high school basketball stars don't just learn the game of basketball, they learn the game of life.
But you know what's unfortunate? You don't only pay the price with death. When you decide to play with the big C, when you play with cocaine or crack, like Lawrence Taylor, the great football player, said, there's only one way, baby. There's only one way to beat it. Not like I did. There's only one way. Don't start. You start, it's a battle the rest of your life.
ESPN presents The Game of Life. Brought to you by the people at Nike, who encourage you to just do it. During the next hour, Dick Vitali speaks to these young basketball stars from across the country. While the energy and passion of Vitali may sound familiar, it's his message that's different.
The reason I'm excited to be here with you, you're achievers. You guys have really, really proven yourself as athletes to get the opportunity to share a week together, the opportunity to blend your talents with others. I mentioned the word blending. It's really amazing when I think about it. There's 4 factors of your life that are really going to be affected within the next year. You go on to college after this season, you have a great senior year, and then all of a sudden, you're going to have to blend in. You're going to have to blend in with other talent. You're going to have to be a blender. You're no longer going to be option number 1. A lot of guys can't handle that. A lot of guys have a difficult time. They report to college, and all of a sudden, there's 12 other great ones. There's other supers. And now all of a sudden, I have to be one of the guys. A lot of guys begin to fold. They immediately call back their high school coach. Hey, coach. He doesn't realize I was Mr. Superstar when I played for you in high school. He doesn't realize I was Uno number 1, that I broke all the records. Hey, everybody there was Mr. Superstar. Then there's expectations. Wow, expectations. When you walk onto campus, Nike All-American, everybody looks at you and says, wow, he's supposed to be our savior. Now the pressure mounts. How you handle that pressure. That's what life is all about, adjusting and handling that pressure. And then there's the media. All of a sudden now, you start to get criticized. And all of a sudden, some things are said, written, that weren't written on a high school level. And how you deal with that gets us back to that magical word, adjusting. And then there's the academic pressure, coming in that classroom, and now dealing with a bunch of kids who are there, who maybe aren't athletes, but who are there because, one, they're great students, and now you have to make that academic adjustment. So important in life, adjusting. I remember this camp, unbelievable. When I think about the guys that have sat in front of me, I think about an Alonzo Mourning. I think about a Billy Owens. I think about a year when they had Chris Jackson and Owens and Mourning, and then you had last year the Webbers and the Allen Hendersons and the Glenn Robinsons. And the beat goes on. And the year prior, you had the Kenny Anderson sitting there with the big eyes, the New York City Super, go between his legs, hang in the air, take the ball to the goal. Unbelievable talent. Jimmy Jackson, JJ. And then the beat goes on. This year I hear magical names the moment I walk in. Broderick Rhodes. Jason Kidd, Othello Harrington, Greg Simpson, and a host of others. Oh, that's all super. But what I want to talk to you as I get ready now to get into the meat and potatoes of why I'm here is talking to you about making it in the biggest game of all, the game of life. Everybody here's dreaming. I want to be a pro player. Why? Why just a pro player? Why not a pro person? Why not be the best person that you can be so you can have options? Options A, B, and C. So you can control your destiny, which so many athletes today do not do. I don't care what line, whether you're a swimmer, whether you're a wrestler, whether you're just a great academic student, whether you are absolutely a super in music, every one of us have dreams. And there's nothing wrong dreaming. We all want to catch that dream. I think of my life. I was a boy, a ball, a dream, just like you. My girl said to me just recently, Daddy, when are you going to start acting like 50 instead of acting like 12? You know what I think about? Young people. People like you and you. So beautiful to see black and white, to see Catholic and Jew, to see rich and poor, to see all people gathered here together, trying to be the best they can be in pursuit of their goals and dreams. And I was no different. I had that dream. I was a boy, a ball, a dream. And I wanted to climb the mountain. And along the way, fellas, there are a lot of obstacles that happen in our life. And dealing with obstacles is what it's all about. Yeah, it's the biggest game we play. The game of life. My heart breaks my spirit at times. And my heart, as a father, as someone that loves kids like your mom and dad or your guardian or your loved one, to read about so many athletes today that have decided to go the wrong way of life instead of the right way. You know what it gets down to? A magical word. A word that's called pride. An intangible that all successful people have. A sense of pride to be the best they can be. I'll take you on a trip in defining the word pride. What about the locker room just recently when a guy by the name of Jordan, a fair player, a number 23, hanging in the air, slam jam bamming.
Jordan ends up with it. Michael on the push in on Lambier for the dunk right over Lambier.
Right in your
Michael
face.
Jordan just powered it home.
The multi-million-dollar one. I mean, he never has to worry about a dollar in his life. But yet the sense of pride, not about the money. As you looked in the locker room when they won the world championship, I don't know what hit you, but you know what hit me? When Bob Costas put the microphone in front of Michael, and he said, Michael, this moment, and you saw the tears streaming down his face on national television as he sat with his wife and his mama and his papa, and he felt that moment, that golden moment of being a champ. He earned the ring. You can't write a check out, my friends, for a championship ring. All the money in the world, you can't buy it. You must earn it. And at that moment, Michael Jordan earned it. And he was in his golden moment. And then it was so beautiful. As another guy walked into the locker room, a guy, a fair player in his own right. On one side, we got the most electrifying and most entertaining athlete ever to lace up a pair of shoes in Mr. Jordan. On the other side, we probably have the most all-around outstanding player ever to play the game in Urban Magic Johnson. But there's Magic walking into the locker room, and he hugs Michael and says, Michael, today is your day. You are the best. No, he didn't whine and cry and moan like so many people do when we define the difference of a winner and a loser. The winner, when things go great, he says, you know what? I was a little bit lucky, but it wasn't about luck. The loser, Sidney Harris wrote one time, the loser, he says, wow, I had bad luck. Nothing went my way. It wasn't about bad luck. It gets about organizing. It gets about goal planning. It gets about preparing. It gets about a sense of pride. I've often said pride is P for perseverance. The ability to persevere in adversity. I don't care what one does. Unfortunately, as I look here today, I look at each and every one of you, and I think of that magical word, pride. I think about all the things you have done to get to this level, to be one of the top 120 players in the United States of America. You deserve to be applauded. That is just not a gift. It's hours and hours of labor where you took your ball and your dreams and your body and you went out and paid the price to be where you are today. But unfortunately, many of us begin to forget it because now we become bad, and now we become big, and now we become cool, and now we strut, and we come back to school in September, and we walk the halls, and we say, look, America, I am an all-American. I am a super. And now I walk in late in class, and I think I'm a hero when I'm a chump instead of a champ. There is no price that you can ever pay for a reputation. And then there's all other little things that can happen along the way in chasing that dream where your whole life is nothing but basketball, basketball, and basketball. As Arthur Ashe says, follow his message. Get your body to the library. There is no substitute like knowledge. They can never take that away from you. It is so powerful to be able to have something here. That comes from reading. Why not find things that you love to read? Whether it be about a Magic Johnson or a Jordan, but to read, to learn to read and be more than just a jump shooter. Because when that all ends, and many people that can't handle it, they allow basketball to use them. You see, I took basketball, and I wielded it, and I dealed it, and I used it. I didn't let a basketball use me.
This game is a springboard for so many things. Certainly the exposure you get can help you whether you ever play basketball or not professionally, Europe or NBA. It helps you to get an education. Some people say, well, what does a youngster get? Well, he should get a great education. But it's not only a book education, it's a people education. How many youngsters in college have the opportunity to interact with the press, TV, radio, to practice public speaking extemporaneously, and then to be evaluated in front of millions of people? That can be looked at as pressure, or it can be looked upon as being an unbelievable opportunity. You get to meet so many different people. I think you have such a tremendous advantage over your peers as far as growing up, as long as you don't get your head out of joint.
I think the old thing about the air is going to go out of the ball a whole lot sooner than you think is something that we need to continue to repeat on a daily basis to them, that you've got a great opportunity. Don't think that basketball is the end. Basketball has to be the means to the end for them.
This past year at the NCAA Final Four, right here in Indianapolis, when I got a call to be the guest speaker for John Wooden, testimonial, Coach Wooden. For some of you that don't know, John Wooden won 10 national championships. Not one, think about it. UCLA, 10 banners. He won with a small team, he won with a big team. But he had them play as a team. T for togetherness, E for effort, A for attitude, and M for mental toughness. His players all knew their roles. They all had their roles defined, and they played as a team. Coach Wooden was honored here in Indianapolis for the testimonial. I walked in with my wife and daughters, man. I felt like $1 million. Because in 1971, I'm dreaming. And that's why we have the greatest country of all, where you can take your dreams and make them a reality. I'm teaching the 6th grade, and I'm writing letters to all the famous coaches. Share with me your words of wisdom, Coach Wooden. Share with me your words of wisdom, Ara Parsegian, the late Paul Bear Bryant. What makes you people so special? What makes you people such winners? And I'd get my letter back. I'd get a letter back from Coach Wooden. I'd look at the letter, the pyramid of success, all the characteristics that it takes to be successful, all the intangibles. And I'd take that, and I'd read it, and other teachers would walk in there and say, hey, Richie, you're only dreaming. You will be a 6th grade teacher all your life. You will be here with us all your life. And I'd say, so what? There's nothing wrong being a 6th grade teacher and a high school coach. They were some of the greatest moments of my life. I can remember vividly now, thinking of you here as high school kids, the moment at East Rutherford, New Jersey, as we cut the nets down and won 2 state championships. Not because I was a genius. I had a great player and a bunch of good, tough kids around him. And we were fortunate to win. But what a moment I'll never, ever forget in my life. They were special moments, those high school days. And I had one philosophy. If I were going to be a 6th grade teacher, I was going to be the best damn 6th grade teacher I can ever be. Because my mom and papa, like many of yours, my father, factory worker, he worked like you couldn't believe. What an example. I learned more at home at my dinner table than I ever learned in any class that I ever took. I learned about love. I learned about togetherness. I learned about caring about one another. I learned about the pain and suffering when something happens in your life and who's at your side. Your mama, your papa, your guardian, somebody. We all want someone to love us. I don't care who I've ever met. And I've been fortunate over the last 10 years to break bread with some of the biggest names that you could ever envision. Names that excite me when wow. You find out they're just regular people. And you find out they're just ordinary like anyone else who maybe reached a certain mountaintop. Yeah, it's nice to be important. Right now, you guys are important. But it's also important to be nice. It's also important to extend a hand. And I learned that at home. I watched my father work in a factory, leave 7 in the morning. And he'd come back 4 in the afternoon pressing coats. Pressing coats. And he would get paid by every coat he pressed. That's how he got paid. I said, Dad, how come? How come you go to work at 6 o'clock? You don't start till 7. He said, when the man pays you, when the man writes that check out, you get there early, you be prepared, you be punctual, you give him an honest day's work. They call a meeting here or in any class situation you're involved in. Again, whether you're a swimmer, dancer, musician, they call that meeting. You be punctual. Your reputation. Don't walk in late. You walk in cool and you think you're cool. And word begins to filter. Around the high school, one teacher talks to the next teacher talks to the next, and immediately word is out. He's bad. He's trouble. He's a problem. He's a discipline problem. I want no part of him. All he is a jock who can shoot a ball. He's not going to make it in life. But you see, if you walk in now, like a real class act, like a David Robinson, Michael Jordan. Do you know this, that Michael Jordan? Think about it. Doesn't have to do it. Multi-millionaire. He gets done at North Carolina, goes to the NBA. Michael Jordan comes back and goes in the summer to get his degree. And not only does he get his degree, he says, I want to walk down the aisle. I want to put that robe on. I want my parents to see me. I want to walk down that aisle.
A kid's in college to get an education. He isn't going to get it sitting on his ass in a room somewhere. I mean, he's going to get an education by going to class. I think that's the primary thing that I try and explain to families, parents and kids included, is that if you're going to come to Indiana, I want to see you get an education. I want to see you leave Indiana in 4 years ready to compete for a job just as easily and just as well as you can compete on the basketball floor. I don't think there's any thing that is of a higher priority for a kid in making a choice in going to college and simply going somewhere where he is going to be compatible with the approach to education, where people are going to see that this kid's efforts and this kid's intelligence are rewarded with an opportunity to do things after he graduates. And that's going to be primarily a result of his obtaining a degree.
The foul on Lynch. That's a monster mash, baby. That's a monster jam.
School is very important to me, and it's one of the main reasons why I'm staying in for my final year. I look at it this way. A degree is something that no one can take from you. I mean, they can take away your arm, your leg, and they can take away anything that's going to help you succeed in basketball. But they will never be able to take my degree from me.
Think about the powerful words. Graduate college. Think about the athletes today. Crushes me. You pick up USA Today, it's a disgrace. A flat-out disgrace to see the number of athletes that aren't walking down that aisle. And I don't want to blame any coach or blame any system. You blame yourself. You look in the mirror like a man, and you say, I'm a loser. But I haven't met a coach yet. I haven't met a coach yet. Whether it be a John Thompson whether he be a Mike Krzyzewski, whether he be a Bobby Knight, whether he be a Wimp Sanderson, whether he be a Dale Brown, whether he be a Bobby Cremens, I haven't met a coach yet who doesn't preach about the importance of going to class, the importance of staying away from drugs, the importance of staying away from alcohol. But you see, you have to look in the mirror. And the mirror, each and every day of your life, tells you whether you're a winner or a loser. Because the mirror doesn't lie. You can't con the mirror. You look at the mirror, and it looks back every morning. You can con Mama. Oh, man, you can run the greatest con on Mama. You can run a con on Papa. You can run a con on your coach. Can't con the mirror. Mirror looks at you and says, I know what you've been doing. I know what you did today. And yeah, that leads me. The two most wasted days of a week. Yesterday and tomorrow. Yesterday is history. It's in the book. Tomorrow is unborn. We don't know what's going to happen. But we know today is the most important day of your life. What you do today at the end of the night and go back in that room and look in the mirror tonight when it's all said and done, and you simply say to yourself, did I really give it my best to be the best person that I can be, to be a pro person, to be really somebody that people can be proud of? I don't want to be a follower. I want to be a leader. Yeah, that gets back with perseverance, to persevere. I lost my eye as a kid. I was cool, you know, I thought all my buddies were my buddies. And I lose my eye, missed my junior year of high school, and I find out about Mama and Papa. Don't ask me how. Mama, working down the cellar press, she's sewing coats, and my father's pressing coats. So my brother, my sister, and I can have a better life.
We had a kid, David Henderson, who's from North Carolina, about 6 years ago on our team. Was a star player for us. He came from what I'd say dirt. You know, he was poor, and I made him a really good player. Whenever he forgot about where he came from, I always reminded him. He only did that a couple times, but I remind him because that gave him something that was an advantage over some other kids.
I can guarantee I can go in your home, and your mom and pop or your guardian as they leave echo these words in you every day. Son, please stay out of trouble. Be the best you can be. Son, be home on time. Son, please study. And you walk out cool because Johnny calls, you see, and you think that he's cool, and he bury you. First chance he gets, that scums. You see how the road trying to pull down all people that are successful because they want you to be one of them. You see, I'm not telling you no story, my friend. I'm telling you facts.
Where in the world can you find hot days, hotter nights, romance under the sun, romance under the moonlight, sports all day, sports all night, superstars enjoying the day, superstars filling up the night, and action day and night, day and night. Only in Las Vegas.
The Nicoderm Patch, nicotine transdermal system.
I'd heard about the Nicoderm patch, but when it comes to something like that, I only go to one place for advice. I got together with my doctor. He said, look, Nicoderm is not the whole thing. So we sat down and talked. That was months ago. And I got to tell you, I'm glad I talked to the doctor. After all, who knows better?
Nicoderm. Ask your doctor about it. By prescription only.
I think of this camp. I remember my camp. Memories. They so beautiful, memories. I think of back in New Jersey when I ran a camp as a high school coach. And we had a kid at our camp. Means nothing to you today. Some people might know his name. The coaches gathered here. His name was Billy Tinsley. Billy Tinsley was everything what you are here today. He was the best player in New Jersey. He was a golden player. I mean, he was all Rolls Royce. He had it all. He was going into his senior year just like you. And one day my phone rings at home, and the detective says, Coach Vitali, was Billy Tinsley at your camp last night? I said, yes. He said, well, Billy won't be there tomorrow. I said, what? Billy came from a great family, residential section of town, beautiful mom and dad. But Billy got weak, And he played the game, and today he's a memory. And when they had the funeral and they put his jersey and they lowered a casket, and you see a broken-hearted family, think about the loved ones you destroy. Think about the beautiful people that care. Another guy, fair player. I'd say maybe as good as some in here. Probably better than most. Yeah, the headline should have been, B&B, Bird and Bias, tear down the Boston Garden. It should have been Bird and Bias, rocking and rolling, baby, in the Boston Garden. But this guy Bias, you see, Lenny, second pick of the NBA draft. And Lenny Bias came from a beautiful home. It crushes me every time I hear his mama. I think it's beautiful that she goes out to the public and talks about what happened to her boy. Her son talks about what happened, how he gave in to peer pressure. I say screw peer pressure.
I think the biggest problem that kids have with drugs today is that there's so much peer pressure. Well, I've always told kids, find a kid that doesn't do drugs. I mean, there are all kinds of kids. You got a girlfriend that does drugs, look over her shoulder and you're going to find somebody that's better looking. If there's a wall there, look left and you'll find two that are better looking than she is. You got a guy that is doing drugs. The thing that he wants most of all is to see you do it, because that brings you down to his level. You don't have to bring him up to your level, but you sure as hell don't need to think about going down to his level. Kids know what they should be doing, and they know where they should be. My guys, they've heard enough about drug abuse and about the effects of drugs, and yet every day you pick up the paper, there's some kid that hasn't paid attention to everything that's been said educationally about drug or alcohol abuse. And it's just my hope that kids will start paying attention.
The closest thing, my friends, that I have seen to Michael Jordan was Lenny Bias coming out of college. He was strong. He had great legs. He put a show on against Carolina one time, put like 40 points on a board, and had the Carolina players talking to himself. And I'll never forget at ESPN, we interviewed him like maybe 2 days, a day before his death. And I'll never forget that moment, as certain moments in our minds stand out. When John F. Kennedy was assassinated, to me, I'll never forget the moment in my classroom in the 6th grade. I'll never forget the moment with Lenny Bias. I'm riding with my wife on our highway, the Lodge Expressway in Michigan. And all of a sudden, bulletin, Lenny Bias, drafted 2 days ago, just found dead, ODs. Lenny Bias, big and strong. I beg you, I plead with you. These are not stories. These are facts.
I have yet to see an NBA player say this, or any athlete say, headlines in the paper, John Doe says that the use of drugs has made me a better player and has put me to the top in my profession and has gotten me a big contract. On the contrary, what I see is people crashing into poles, people overdosing, people in hospitals, careers ruined, money spent crazily on drugs.
My God, I speak as a dad. Heck, my girls are vulnerable just like you and everyone else. Well, you have to have strength and you have to have character. And you have to be a winner. You have to be so strong physically, emotionally, and mentally. Because they like to prey upon you, especially when things don't go well. As I said, man, I get emotional at times. I don't know where that came from, but I get emotional. Because I love people. I love people. If I could reach one of you here today, it's been worth it for me to be here. Just one. I tell you no lie. I'm telling you a fact. Think about these names. You don't know the name. Larry Bethea. He played football. My God, he was tough. He was big, he was strong. He was a first-round draft choice. Dallas Cowboys. He was an All-American. Michigan State. But you see, Larry got weak. He gave in to peer pressure. And he got real weak. And I read this story. I wanted to just cry for his family. I wanted to cry for his family. I think of Larry. Can you imagine getting on your knees, big and strong, like maybe 6'6", I don't know his size. They say 6'6", 6'7", 280. You know what the big C did to him? Because he didn't make an intelligent decision in life? That's right. Crack, cocaine. See, it doesn't mess. It takes all bodies. Big ones, tall ones, fat ones, skinny ones, rich ones, poor ones, black ones, white ones.
Just because a kid is a basketball player, just because a person is wealthy and has a lot of money. You see that in Hollywood. You see that with guys playing professional sports. You see it with people with no money at all. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you're good at one particular thing. It doesn't matter that you're brilliant. There's a lot of very intelligent people that were into cocaine for years and years. So it doesn't matter what you do. If you can't recognize the difference between what's good or bad for you, the money and all the other things that go with it don't matter. But, I think people make a mistake. Somebody says, well, this guy's making $500,000 playing a professional sport. How could he do drugs? Same way a guy that's making no money could do it, because the person's basically an idiot and is making a bad decision.
He got Larry on his knees, and he took a gun, and he blew his brains out because he was getting so desperate. Stealing from your mother. Stealing from your mother to support your habit. Did you see Jungle Fever? Spike Lee's movie? So real. The one scene was so real. Gator. That's right. Remember the name. He gets so desperate. Good family. Beautiful mother. Beautiful father. But Gator, you see, he started messing with crack. Oh, I can handle it. I can beat it. You can beat it. How desperate he got. You see a scene. Ripping off his mother. Ripping her jewelry. She goes, Mama, I hate doing this, Mama. Give me money. I need money, Mama. I need money to live, Mama. I got to get some crack, Mama. I have to beat you. Beat his mother? My God, I think of my hands. Laying a hand on my mother? Are you serious? There's only one Mama. There's only one Papa. That's all.
You have to make the decision. What role are you going to take? Are you going to try to live the fast life and be a drug dealer and all that? Or are you going to try to wait and, fulfill your dreams that you have and wait later on down in life to be successful?
You stay away from drugs by not being around it. I mean, you're not enticed to use drugs if you're never around someone that's using drugs. And if someone sees me on the street, they'll feel very stupid to come up to me and ask me to use drugs if they know what kind of person I am. Or they know I would just look at them like they were crazy.
Remember this. We talk about intelligent decision. The alcohol scene, to drink just to get obliterated. To drink to just get bombed. To drink to just get annihilated for the sake of drinking. My God, is that sad? Is that sad? Drink and drive, destroying lives. How many proms and senior nights you hear about young people who today are no longer with us? All because they got that cheap high. And today they are a statistic. And think about those that have taken their lives in suicide and every other way because they don't want to deal with the real world and because self-esteem gets so low. And what brings that self-esteem down is playing those kind of games. Screw those games. I mean, he was sensational. Cincinnati, I mean, superstar right out of here. Right out of this state. And he was so gifted it was unreal. Rebound, pass, shoot. But Magic breaks his record for the most assists in the history of basketball. And you know what Magic does at that moment? When they stop the game at the Forum in L.A. and they present him the basketball, he gets the microphone and he says to the audience,
I'd like to also thank the person who really, without these two beautiful people, I wouldn't be here, the Magic Makers. I know both of them are sitting at home right now. My dad probably in his favorite seat, the same one he used to tell me and explain to me how to really play this game. And if you're listening, Dad, I just want to thank you and tell you that I love you so much. And to Mom, thank you too. And the last but not least, thank you, fans, for coming out every night and supporting me. So thank you.
three powerful words. Do you ever echo those words? Or do you wait till it's too late? Do you ever go into Mom and hug her? Say, Mom, I love you, Mama. You're the best. I think you're the best. Papa, you're guarding. Or is that too cool, you see? Well, Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson, they don't think it's too cool. They think it's beautiful. They think it's beautiful. That they can share their feelings, share their emotions with the people that mean so much to them, that mean everything to them in their life, that mean everything what they're about. A real champ, not a chump. Champ. C for courage, H for heart, A for attitude, M for mental toughness, P for pride. That's what a champ is. 1986, when Lenny Bias came out, unfortunately, there were a lot of chumps. I hate to say this, because I pray that they make it back. Think about this draft. 1986, 4 of the top selections in a draft. You ready for them? Lenny Bias. History, my friends, a memory. Chris Washburn, struggling, my friends, struggling. Should be a star, should be a super. When he was in high school, I don't mean to put anyone down here, Washburn could do it all. Do everything that anybody can do here. And you think of that draft? William Bedford, struggling, struggling. Want to go further? Roy Tarpley, struggling. I pray that a Tarpley, a Bedford, and a Washburn who got a chance. They got a chance yet. They're young. They get their life in order. Lenny doesn't have that chance. But you know what's unfortunate? You don't only pay the price with death when you decide to play with the big C, when you play with cocaine or crack. Like Lawrence Taylor, the great football player, said, there's only one way, baby. There's only one way to beat it. Not like I did. There's only one way. Don't start. You start, it's a battle the rest of your life. You see, I want to get high on life. I want to wake up like a Jordan and a Magic, and I want to enjoy life. Life is too short to let some artificial high, let some garbage control my life, control my every move, control my every emotion. I don't need it. There's so many beautiful ways you can get high, like Dr. J used to say. Get high at dreaming, taking a rock, flying to the goal, slamming that sucker down. Man, that's a great high. It's a high that I don't need no artificial highs. I don't got to play that game. I beg you, as a father, someone who cares about kids, I may never see you again. We may see each other again. But if there's one thing I beg you, please don't play that game. Mad! What are they mad about? Making $2 million a year, wearing gold chains, driving Mercedes, top of the world, and they walk around. I'm mad, man. Life is so tough. Oh, I wish I could throw some, I don't want to throw profanity. Are you kidding me? Tough. They should think about Mom and Papa and how tough they had it. There are achievers in our world who are attackers, and there are retreaters. Are you an achiever, or are you a retreater? The achiever, he prepares. He says, come on, Mr. Professor, give me your test. And I'm ready for that sucker, because I have studied, and I have prepared, and I'm going to attack that test. And then there's the retreater. He plays the con game. Never opens the book, and he's going to retreat. And he's going backwards. And all his life, he's conning and conning until one day the con game comes to an end. Don't be a retreater. Be an achiever. People say to me, Dick, you're so enthusiastic. Hell, why shouldn't I be enthusiastic? I got a great life. I'm able to wake up every day, enjoy life. There are a lot of people, my friends, a lot of young people. You get over to children's hospitals and you see kids who would dream, who'd give anything to sit here with you and me, who'd give anything to be part of what we have here today. But unfortunately, they've been dealt a tough, tough hand. And you know some of those people. People that haven't been given the same deal as we've been given. That's why I got a kick. Say, we're all equal. We're not all equal. We're not all equal. Don't tell me the kid who wakes up without 2 legs and an arm has the same chance. But you know where we're equal? We're equal within ourselves and within our spirit to be the best we can be. And that's where those kids make up for it. And some of them are the most beautiful people. My idea, just get involved in the Special Olympics And you see those kids perform and compete just to get a ribbon, just to get a gold medal as you're hanging on their neck, the thrill of competing, to be a competitor, and you hug them, and they feel like $1 million. Friends, life is not all about money. I was happy when I didn't have it. When I was a sixth grade teacher, I had the same enthusiasm as I have today. I want to also tell you this. Think about it. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. The more I perspire, the better genius I become. And that's in any walk of life. Whether you be a Lee Iacocca in the automobile industry, whether you be a superstar athlete, whether you be a great, great musician, my God, you sweat, you perspire to make those dreams happen. All-American? How do you guys do All-American? What is an All-American? What is a Magic Johnson? What is a Michael Jordan? They're ordinary people with extraordinary desire to excel. When Magic was young and people would go recruit him, Magic would be at 7:30 in the morning. Other guys are sleeping. Magic bouncing the ball in the ice and snow, shoveling snow in Lansing, Michigan, playing with his ball and his dreams. If you put Magic here and run a race, most of you guys can beat him in a sprint. Most of you can high jump and jump higher than he can, but try to win like he wins, man. Try to win. See, that winning becomes contagious. Good character becomes contagious. Vince Lombardi, one of the greatest coaches of football of all time, Green Bay Packers, you don't remember it's the Packer way? When he used to win those Super Bowls, he said, I want character. I want people that are winners. Because good habits are like bad habits. They become contagious. You make good decisions. You develop good habits. You pursue knowledge. You get to the library. You study. You have options. You be proud. You have self-esteem. You stand tall like a champ. You have a sense of pride about what you are. And you never, ever forget to say thank you to people that care. You never, ever forget to say, I love you, to the people you love the most. My God, that's a special way of living. That's a special way of life.
The Total Sports Network.
I love you people. You people, young people, have so much in front of you. Take what you have. Be the best you can be. Set your dreams to the top. Set your goals to be realistic. Write those goals down. And man, make yourself the best person that you can possibly be. Each and every day of your life, play a little game. Have a little checklist. And say, let me look in the mirror. Let that mirror look back at me. And let me know that I've done things the right way. I have pride. I'm a champ. I'm not a chump. I have heart. I have desire. I'm not a quitter. We often hear quitter never wins and a winner never quits. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. We hear about all those statements, and they're all so true. Strong men criticize themselves. That's what winners are all about. You think about we, not I. Think about climbing a mountain, despite those that want to pull you down, but you don't let them pull you down. You think about walking in that classroom like a man, and you think about a goal that should be your #1 priority. I will graduate high school, and then I am going to graduate college. Anybody that wants to graduate will graduate. But if you're going to be a chump who's just strolling it out to play your eligibility and trying to just be eligible, my friend, you're going to be a loser and not a winner. Be a winner. Have it all. Have the total package. Have it all. Be that winner. Put your chest high. You put that robe on. You get up those stairs. You stand on that stage. You receive that diploma. And you walk down. And then if the man ever calls you in and says, you know what, my friend? We made a trade. Or you're injured. Or you're going to the waiver list. Or you can't play anymore. You say, you know what? That's okay, sir. It was great effort. Thanks for giving me a chance. But now I got this. Because you know what? I got my degree. Now I'm going to go on and make something of my life in another area, using my basketball, using whatever. As I said, if you're in music or in dance or whatever, you're going to use that discipline, because there's a lot of discipline to being what you are today. You can't get to the top of what you're doing without having discipline and dedication and having a sense of pride. I want to wish each and every one of you all the luck in the world. I hope all your dreams are realized. My God, I'm perspiring here because I love this opportunity that Nike has given me to share some words in my life. And I want to be able to hear it, man. Come in the gym and hear, Simpson takes to the goal at Michigan against Mr. Weber. He takes it and he dunks that sucker. Ohio State and the Wolverines on ESPN. Or we hear Roderick Rhodes flying through the sky with a little slam jam bam. Yeah, I want to be in that arena. And then I want to be able to get a letter from you, like I've had from some previous guys that have graduated. And they write and they say, gee, Coach, thanks for some words of wisdom, but I got my degree. Man, to me, that makes it all worth it. Every bit of sweat, every bit of hassle to try and get here, believe me, is worth it. I want to say again, may all your dreams be realized. Be a real champ. Stand there, have that pride. Look in the mirror each and every day and say, I am doing it the right way for Mama, Papa, my garden, the people that love me, because I'm not going to break their hearts. And most of all, I'm not going to break my heart. I'm not going to be a statistic like a bias. I'm not going to be a Billy Tinsley and be a statistic. You see, my heart bleeds to their parents. They had great parents, just like many of you have, but they made a wrong decision in life. Please, I beg you, don't make the wrong decision. Don't start in any shape or form to ever play with that game. Because if you play with the big C, crack or cocaine, it will eat you alive and spit you out and bury you and destroy your entire life. God bless you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
The Game of Life has been brought to you by the people at Nike, who encourage you to just do it.
Wow. 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 Wow.
how we love these games, these athletes who become us. How fast can you run? How high can you leap? How strong are your arms? How sure your eyes? How powerful your body? How hard will you try? In those answers, there is glory, a moment you'll never forget. But there are some who won't hear that cheer from the crowd or their heart. They'll never know what they might have done or become. Their downfall came away from the playing field before the game. It happened when they decided to use drugs. This is the story of a dozen athletes, a handful among the tens of thousands of athletes whose lives have changed because of alcohol and drugs. It is the story of what they are now compared to what they once were or what they might have been. One of them played with heroic strength in the National Football League. Both his strength and a damaged heart were the result of steroids. Another suffered surgery and 5 new arteries. Another lost 2/3 of his liver. 2 others struggled with irrepressible rage. All of them the victims of steroids. And the same illegal chemicals cost this man a gold medal, a world record, and perhaps worst of all, the respect of tens of millions from around the world. Cocaine cost this man at least $5 million and very nearly his family and his wife. This boy had a chance to win a national championship. Now all he has is regret. And she might have paid her way through college, and he might have made it into the record books, even the Hall of Fame, had it not been for drinking and drugs. Finally, this man might have been a legend, not a star, a superstar. Instead, today, he sits in prison. But our story ends with 4 other athletes. One voted the most valuable player in 2 consecutive seasons. Another elected to the All-Star team 6 years in a row. A third, a world-class runner. And finally, a tiny 17-year-old girl from California who stunned the world with 3 gold medals and a world record and charmed us all with her smile. All 4 are among the very best athletes in the world. And a long time ago, all 4 made a decision not to use drugs. What is, what was, what might have been. So many times what makes the difference is alcohol and drugs. On any battlefield or playing field in all of history, there have never been men larger, more massive, more powerful than these. As a group, they're the biggest men the world has ever seen. Today, the average guard or tackle in the National Football League weighs almost 270 pounds. And each year, they grow larger, in part because of diet and weight training, in part because, according to one veteran of 2 NFL teams and 2 Super Bowls, many of the linemen in professional football use steroids. Steve Corson, for 9 years an offensive guard for the Pittsburgh Steelers and then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And for most of those years, he used steroids. He's 6'1". His top playing weight was 305. He could bench press 600 pounds. He says at the beginning of his career, there were some linemen he knew who didn't use steroids, but that...
Since then, it has slowly escalated, but it's at the point now, I believe, that unless you're an athlete of superior ability and superior genetics, that you cannot compete in the line of scrimmage, and you face extinction in the line of scrimmage unless you travel the chemical pathway.
He started on that chemical pathway in college at the University of South Carolina. In the summer before his sophomore year, he lifted weights and took a steroid tablet every day for 30 days. His weight shot up from 225 to 260 pounds. And for the next 3 years, number 66 found that he was big and fast and strong enough to toss aside or crush most of his opponents. In 1977, he was signed by the best football team of the decade, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, number 77, he continued to use steroids and eventually became one of the strongest men in the NFL. And all the while, those steroids were trying to kill him. At a preseason training camp in 1985, now playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he was given a routine electrocardiogram. A few minutes later, a trainer for Tampa Bay said, "Steve, there's something wrong with your heart. We have to take you to a doctor. We have to leave right now." His heart rhythm was irregular. His resting heart rate was 160 beats per minute, almost 3 times higher than normal.
I think one of the things that really hit me hard, not just my accelerated heart rate, that scared me, but when he gave me some pills, and they were pills that you give heart attack patients. In other words, people with serious heart problems, and I'm looking at them going, well, I'm 29 years old, and I'm being given these, and I'm like going, I'm really starting to think about what I had done in my life, and my thoughts are flashing through my mind so fast I can barely keep track of them. So I rode back with that assistant trainer back to the Buccaneers complex, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm realizing that I was competing myself into a state of not just ill health, but a state of near death.
After several weeks of medication and a doctor's steroids, synthetic testosterone, the male hormone manufactured in a laboratory. The tablets are swallowed. The liquid is injected with a hypodermic needle. Except when prescribed by a doctor, they are illegal. And yet for 30 years, weightlifters, bodybuilders, track and field athletes, football players, swimmers, long-distance runners, athletes of every description have been buying them on the black market at a rate currently of $100 million a year. So to the list that includes cocaine, crack, marijuana, LSD, PCP, add another name, steroids.
I think that 95% of all athletes, of all major power athletes, have at least one time or another attempted or tried anabolic steroids in an effort to enhance their performance, which means everybody's doing them.
It's really significant. I mean, it's just spread through all the sports. In the past, it used to just be your elite, your top-level athletes who were taking the drugs, but now it's just gone right across the gamut.
The estimates now are probably 3 million users or more, and it depends on who you survey, but I would definitely think that it's the fastest form of, growing form of drug abuse in the United States today.
An epidemic.
An epidemic.
Some of these men have used steroids, and you can see the results. Huge bodies, rippling muscles, and overpowering physique. But there are other results. Acne, oftentimes terrible scarring acne on the legs, back, chest, and shoulders, as well as a damaged heart, Arteries filled with cholesterol, shrunken testicles, high blood pressure, tumors of the liver and the prostate. All these can be caused by steroids in the bodies of men who appear to be in perfect health. Let me give you a couple of examples. He was a champion, one of the strongest men in the Western world, a weightlifter, a bodybuilder, who went from a 120-pound, skinny, self-conscious teenager to a 242-pound man who could put a barbell on his shoulders and lift 705 pounds. For most of his career, almost every day, he used steroids. Because of them, he says, he will probably die within 4 years. In 1983, at the height of his career, Glenn Maurer had a heart attack. He was rushed to the hospital, examined, and then the doctor walked into his room.
He came in and said that there was 5 arteries that had 90 to 95% blockages. He said without immediate surgery, I had 3 to 6 months to live, period.
Without the surgery, you're a dead man?
Yeah.
It must have been a shock.
Yeah, that was a major... I didn't know how to react to that. You know, there's an instant feeling of wanting to cry, but athletes don't cry. I didn't cry.
Tears would have been understandable. His strength has come to this, struggling to lift just 45 pounds. Glenn is a victim of one of the most dangerous side effects of steroids, the rapid buildup of cholesterol in the arteries, which in turn blocks the flow of oxygen to the heart. Without oxygen, the heart shuts down. Without medical attention, the patient may die. In fact, less than 24 hours after entering the hospital, Glenn was on an operating table. His 5 blocked arteries replaced in a day-long operation called a quintuple bypass. And he sometimes wishes the operation had failed.
You know, waking up was a lot more devastating than I thought. I mean, that surgery does major damage. I mean, it's not like a minor surgery where in a few weeks you're up and around. I mean, it took months. It took 2 years before I could land my chest. It was that sore. After full recovery, I was down to about... I had the heart attack weighing about 235, dropped down to about 165. I mean, you can't... You go from being one of the strongest men in the world to not being able to go to the bathroom without somebody holding your arm. You know, you get back and you're out of breath and you're shaky and you just want to lay down.
Today, it is hard for him to run, hard to even play with his son without running out of breath. And on the kitchen table, these are the medicines he has to take, some every day. All because Glenn Maurer made a bargain with steroids. They gave him strength and beauty, and in return took his health, and with a permanently damaged heart, he predicts, before long, they will also take his life. Another victim, another who almost died from steroids, Bill Loomis, a salesman from Newport Beach, California, with his wife Patty. All his life, Bill wanted to look bigger, stronger, feel better about himself. So in 1979, he went to a doctor in Los Angeles. The doctor prescribed steroids, saying they were perfectly safe. And for the next 5 years, Bill took a steroid tablet every day. Every 3 months, he went back for a physical, and every time the doctor said he was doing just fine. He wasn't. On October 8th, 1984, in 9 hours of surgery, doctors cut out 2/3 of his liver, removed a 4-pound tumor, and told Bill he had cancer.
About 5 in the afternoon, the next day after they told me I was dying of cancer, the doctors came in, and then as they left, I went up and turned around and said, your tumor was chemically induced, and we're just going to let you go home, and as long as you don't take chemicals, it shouldn't come back.
He didn't have cancer, and in fact, after Bill quit taking steroids, the tumor didn't come back. Was that just a fortunate coincidence? Dr. John Craig is the pathologist who examined Bill's tumor.
In Mr. Loomis's case, I believe the tumor is related to the use of anabolic steroids. Had he not taken the steroids, he would have no tumor.
No question in your mind?
That's right.
Absolutely, it was steroids.
That's right.
Hello, John.
For 5 years, he had placed himself in a doctor's care, took precisely the amount of steroids the doctor prescribed, and had a checkup every 3 months. And yet, he almost died. So, how's Bill Loomis doing today? His wife says, not too well.
It's just real hard for him to control his rage. At this point, I think it's anger, being cut open. I mean, he's got scars from here to here and down to there. He's a walking map.
You think he's angry about that?
Oh, yeah. He hasn't gotten over the anger. And it's eating him up alive.
What's he angry about?
Trusting a doctor.
And almost losing his life.
And losing his life because of it. Almost.
A salesman, a power lifter, a football player, all of them victims of steroids. And here's where the next victims will come from. Not athletes, not even adults. They're kids. Teenagers, even kids in junior high, are now taking steroids, more today than ever before. Let me introduce you to two of them. Bill Burke from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He started on steroids when he was 13 years old. He quit last year, his senior year in high school. His best friend, Ernie Garros, he also started on steroids in junior high and quit right before he dropped out of school last year. Both had heard that steroids were dangerous, but they had to find that out for themselves.
Well, I broke out really bad.
Acne?
Yeah, acne, bad on my back, on my chest, really bad, and there's nothing you can do to get rid of it. Extreme headache, constant temperature, 100 degrees, 101, it varied. My blood pressure was sky high. It was about 2 times normal. Last few months, my kidney's been hurting me, but I've been just blowing it off. Don't want to think about it. But if you want to come down to it, it's truthful. My kidneys are hurting me. I get pains in my back.
And there was one other side effect that Bill and Ernie and every steroid user I interviewed talked about, every one. They call it roid rage. The explosive, senseless anger caused by steroids, caused by too much testosterone in their bodies. For example,
Took off, and I was starting fights with everybody I came across, punching dents in car doors, just being a destruction machine. It didn't matter. I just had to kill everything. I mean, people would be driving by in their car, and you would pick up a big rock and try and throw it at their car.
You did that?
I did that. It ruins you, lose a lot of friendships and stuff because of it. People.
Because you're angry so often?
Yeah, because you're angry all the time, you know. Nobody wants to hang out with that kind of person.
Out of control?
Beyond out of control, because your friends don't even want to help you because they're afraid that you're going to pick up something and just beat them to death.
both boys are now off steroids, and both say the rage is gone. But we'll find that anger elsewhere on almost any playing field in America. Some say our athletes are becoming more aggressive. Some believe that each year, sports in America grows more violent. Some observers report there are more fights in the field, on the court, or on the ice than ever before. And some argue that steroids is one of the reasons, in fact, may be the principal cause.
There is no question in my mind that some of these unprovoked incidents on the court, on the field, fights, or just where somebody tackled someone after they were down, or hit them going down the court for no reason, these were people under the influence of anabolic steroids.
Anybody who knows people who use these drugs, football players, or track and field athletes, weightlifters, bodybuilders, just have any number of stories of girlfriends being battered around and kids being hit, people getting in fights at just absolutely the drop of a hat for no good reason.
Aside from physical harm and rage, there is another danger in the use of steroids, as one man and the rest of the world learned in the 1988 Summer Games.
Can Carl catch him? No! It's Ben Johnson! Ben Johnson does it again! Unbelievable! 9-7-9!
Unbelievable and illegal. 60 nations around the globe watched Canadian Ben Johnson run the fastest 100-meter race in history. He won the gold medal, applause from around the world, and one of the most coveted titles in all of sport, the world's fastest human. And then suddenly all of it, the fame, the fortune, the glory, was gone.
The gold medal has been withdrawn by the IOC. The urine sample of Ben Johnson, Canada, athletics 100 meter, collected on Saturday 24 September 1988, was found to contain the metabolites of a banned substance, namely stanozolol. It's an anabolic steroid.
That night, sad and disgraced, Ben Johnson went back home to Canada. And the dream and all the years of work, the thousands of hours circling an empty track, running in the sun, in the cold, in the freezing rain, all aimed toward one 10-second race in the afternoon of a single day, the 100-meter finals of the 1988 Summer Games. All that effort wasted. The hopes of a proud nation disappointed because Ben Johnson cheated. He took steroids. The Rocky Mountains outside of Whitefish, Montana, 40 miles south of the Canadian border, and there is a man here in exile. 30 years old, married, the father of 2 children, yet in some ways still a kid. A boy who can't sit still, filled with energy, bold and daring, and like a boy, too often willing to take risks. And for that, he has paid a price. The risk was cocaine. The price was his career.
It's cost me $5 million. Is a good, real good estimate.
$5 million.
$5 million.
What does that represent?
The salaries. I was the best left-handed relief pitcher in baseball.
Steve Howe, former relief pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers. In 1980, he was the National League Rookie of the Year. In 1981, he pitched against the New York Yankees in the last game of the World Series, and the Dodgers won.
For the 1981 champions of baseball.
In 1982, he pitched for the National League All-Star team. In 1983, he had an earned run average of 1.44. In 1984, he was suspended for using cocaine. He has been suspended for most or all of every year since. Steve is a drug addict. Before and after, and sometimes even during games, he was high on cocaine. 5 times he went into treatment. Each time he went back to the drug. Buying, using, then buying more cocaine became an obsession.
If I had 3 grams and I was down to my last gram and a half, I'd go get 5 more before that last gram and a half was out. And, you know,
just to make sure you always had some.
If I had to drive 150 miles at 2 o'clock in the morning to get it, I was gone.
Gone, and his wife Cindy wouldn't know where he was or when he'd be back, and sometimes he wouldn't come back for 3 or 4 days. So for most of 9 years, she was afraid.
Afraid Steve would leave and afraid he wouldn't leave. I couldn't handle the pain of what he was doing to me in the marriage, and yet life without him terrified me.
What was he doing to you in the marriage?
Well, not coming home at night. See, Steve was a binger, so he'd be fine for a week or 2, and then he'd tell me I'm going to the store, and I wouldn't see him for 3 or 4 days. And that anxiety, I mean, I used to panic when Steve said, I'm going to go to the store. It's like, you know, I'm going with you. You know, or I'd make sure he had everything so he wouldn't have to go to the store.
There are so many stories of Steve walking around the house with a loaded gun, convinced somebody outside the front door was waiting for him. Endless times when Steve disappeared. And then there was the night he came home at 2 in the morning after a 3-day binge.
He said he got some bad stuff. And I really didn't think he was going to make it through the night.
You thought he'd die?
Yeah. His body was totally out of control.
Jerking?
Yeah. No muscle control. Nerve control was gone. You know, and he looked dead. I mean, he just looked like, it was like a body that wasn't all there.
Rough night for you.
Oh, yeah. I went to bed and prayed the whole night.
Prayed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that praying that he would live?
Just asked God to be with him. Yeah. Spent a midnight praying for that man.
Today, on a dirt field on the side of a road in northern Montana, Steve plays catch with a friend. In the end, he did find that answer. He no longer uses cocaine, hasn't since July '86. He stays in shape, hopes to get a chance to play baseball again, and spends a lot of time with his family. Still, as you might expect, some days he can't help but look back.
It gets depressing. Drugs came this close from taking my family, my children. Brian wouldn't even have been here if I'd have continued using drugs. My wife wouldn't have had another child, no way.
She would have left you.
Sure. Too painful to live with an addict that's still using. Too hard to love him.
The idea is a simple one. Use drugs and you will pay a price. For Steve Howe, that price was fame and fortune and very nearly a broken marriage and a wife with a broken heart. For other athletes, the price is not always so dramatic or obvious, but it's always there, always. The pitcher on the mound just signed with the San Francisco Giants for $150,000. He's still in high school. And behind the backstop, all this boy can do is watch and wonder if that contract should have been his. Todd Dickerson, 18 years old, a senior at Fontana High School, Fontana, California, and said to be one of the best athletes in the school. He used to be a starting pitcher for the varsity, had great control, a good curveball, a fastball timed at 85 miles per hour. He also played varsity football, and with his speed and skill, he would have started in this game, the California State Championship 1987. After their victory, Fontana was named the best high school football team in America. But Todd started smoking pot when he was 12 years old. He smoked and drank and used speed and cocaine through most of his high school years. And today, he no longer plays in any sport for any team, and his grades are so bad he won't be able to graduate. Still, if you ask Todd about the cost of drugs, he'll tell you about his family. The yelling and screaming, the fights and the tears, the years of hurt he caused his mom and dad, until one day his mom said she couldn't take it anymore.
Finally, she just came to tell me that if I don't do something about my drug problem and do something about my life, that she doesn't want me no more. She'd rather have my dad than me, if that's the way, if I choose to live my life like I was living it.
How'd you feel about that? About her telling you that?
That was that's pretty sad hearing that come from your own mom. That she doesn't, that she won't.
It's hard to get those words out, that your mother doesn't want you anymore. But it wasn't that she didn't love him. It was just that when Todd used drugs, he'd disappear for hours or days at a time. And she wouldn't know where he was or when he'd be back or whether he was out there somewhere, injured or dead.
Well, this last time when Todd took off this last time, and I went to work. Yeah, I worked for a couple of days, and then it just got, I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden I just uncontrollable, and I couldn't stop sobbing.
At work?
Yeah.
Crying?
I just had to go home. I just couldn't function anymore.
Because Todd had taken off?
Yeah.
You hadn't seen him for a couple of days?
Yeah.
Another example, a basketball player for North Scott High School in Eldridge, Iowa, number 53, Melissa Rindler. She was tall and strong and talented, good enough to have played in almost any college, and then 4 years later graduate with some great memories. But Melissa also liked to drink. During most of her first 3 years in high school, she spent her weekends at parties getting drunk, waking up Saturday or Sunday morning, not knowing where she had been or how she had gotten home. And after a while, she says, she didn't care as much about basketball. She'd miss practice because of a hangover, or she'd go, but just not try very hard. And so today, she has regrets and thoughts about what might have been.
I maybe could have went to a school where they do give scholarships. Maybe I could have got larger sums of money, maybe a full ride somewhere.
On a basketball scholarship?
I don't think that's too far out of the picture. I think that could have been possible if I
tried harder.
Melissa is now a freshman in college and no longer drinks. in part because of the example and influence of her boyfriend, which tells us something about how kids can help each other. Now sober and a little older, Melissa is optimistic about her future and a little sad about her past.
But there is another cost of drug and alcohol abuse that we haven't considered yet. There's not only heartache and pain, not only the loss of a high school letter, a college scholarship, a professional career. Sometimes slowly, sometimes overnight, drugs also harm your talent, your ability to play, your ability to win.
The difference between victory and defeat in any sport is almost always a matter of a few inches or a fraction of a second. If you could run just a little faster, leap just a little higher, if your swing were just a little lower, if your aim had been just a little sharper, if you had concentrated just a little harder, you would have made the team or scored the points. You or your team might have won. Winning and losing isn't determined so much on the playing field as it is in the brain. Skill, coordination, concentration are the products of dopamine, epinephrine, endorphins, chemicals produced by the brain and destroyed by the use of drugs.
You take a drug like cocaine. You take a drug like marijuana. It comes into your brain, it comes into your nervous system, and it drives out certain chemicals. And when it drives out those chemicals, the brain or the nervous system may never make them in normal amounts again. And therefore, you may lose some of your attention span. You may lose some of your pain ability, your stress ability, your memory. In other words, any number of things for an athlete can go. And for a professional athlete, for example, or even a good college player, even a good high school player, all you've got to do is take the little edge off, because the difference between players is the edge.
And that edge, that small margin, is the difference between an average athlete and a great one. This man, for example, Charles White of the Los Angeles Rams. He's been both. In 1987, he ran for more yards than any other running back in professional football, 1,374. And no one in the game rushed for more touchdowns than he did, 11. The year was 1987, the year Charles White got off of cocaine.
Am I proud? Oh, of course. I mean, yeah, I am proud. That's, I hear this all the time. You know, I heard this from some reporter doing it on television. Say, the guy went from the jailhouse to the penthouse. And that's an accomplishment in itself. And around here, you don't get too many chances.
Los Angeles was his second chance. This was his first. White was drafted by the Cleveland Browns in 1980. He played that first year addicted to cocaine. And off and on for the next 5 years, he continued to use the drug. Through his 6 seasons with Cleveland, Charles White gained a total of 942 yards. And I asked him about how cocaine affected his ability to play.
Got a very important game that you have to play next week, you know, and these things, you go in the meeting room, and most of your time, a lot of time is spent in meetings. And you go in there and you're falling asleep as a sign. And then you might miss something that the coach had said that's going to be important down in the fourth quarter in the game because you fell asleep in the meeting. Or not understanding, looking at a defense and recognizing right off. You know, I have to sit there and go, you've seen it before, but you're not sure. You know, that thought in the back.
A little fuzzy?
Yeah, I've seen it before, but what is it? What is it? Oh, am I going to block him or am I going to block him, you know? And by the time you make the choice to go to this guy, you're supposed to block the inside guy.
He says it's the small things, the details, the mental mistakes that can ruin a game, a season, a man's career. Since he quit cocaine, Charlie White has played well, gaining more yards in one season than he did in the rest of his career. But for him, 2 questions will always remain. Instead of just 1 or 2 good years, could he have been one of the greatest running backs of all time if he hadn't used cocaine? And secondly, will he relapse? Will he ever use drugs again? He may not. You hope not. But once you use drugs, there's always the risk that someday you'll use drugs again. They call it Winnersville, the city of Valdosta, Georgia, home of the most successful high school football team in history, the Valdosta Wildcats. Football started here in 1913, and in the high school trophy room, you can see the results. They've won the state championship 19 times. 5 times they were named national champions. In this century, 637 victories. They've won 80% of their games.
Okay, ready? Down. Come on,
Even in spring practice for the junior varsity, you can tell. The coaches and the kids here take football seriously.
Down. George, drive through it, drive through it. All right, all right.
There was a running back who played at this school a few years ago who was fast becoming a legend. In 1984, number 21 led his team to their most recent national championship when Valdosta defeated Clark Central from Athens, Georgia, 21-14. He was the star of the game, scoring all 3 touchdowns for the Wildcats. His name was Tony Anderson. He was 6'1", weighed 225, and all the kids in town called him Touchdown Tony.
You know, kids would run up to him, couldn't wait to meet him as he came off the field. They all run out on the field and want to go up to the hero and holler at him and grab the chin strap or, you know, give me your jersey and this type thing. And kids did that all the time because he was the guy that ran the touchdowns, scored the touchdowns. He was the big hero.
The kids loved him, and so did the coach. In his first 3 seasons, Tony gained over 2,700 yards and scored 52 touchdowns. 2 national magazines picked him for their high school All-America teams. Over 100 Division I universities were asking about him, and he was still in his junior year. He was big and fast and strong, and at game time, he was intense.
Probably the personification of intensity, because at game time, then he would rise. He was ready to fight, and football is a controlled fight by the rules, preparation. He was ready at game time.
Every spring in Valdosta, the Wildcats played what used to be called the Has-Been Will-Be game, where the seniors about to graduate, the Has-Beens, played against the sophomores and juniors who would start the next year, the Will-Be team. This game became a tradition in Valdosta. It was also the turning point in Tony Anderson's life. In the spring of 1985, Tony and 2 of his friends showed up late for the game and walked into the stadium drunk. 2 days later, Coach Hyder called the 3 players into his office and kicked them off the team, saying they would never play for Valdosta again.
It was my decision. I based my entire career, background and all, on whether to keep them or whether not to keep them. But I just made the decision that they're not going to play for the team that I coach if they drink. And the reason I made that decision is because of the hundreds of 10, 11, and 12, and 13-year-old youngsters who observe and admire and worship what these young people do.
Well, he was making a point. He was letting the young kids know that I guarantee you there was nobody drinking the next year during the Has-Been Will-Be game. I think that's the point that he wanted to get across. He wanted to stop it right there.
Getting drunk, getting kicked off the team changed Tony's life. The constant applause from a small town, the worship, the headlines were gone. The high school hero who had one claim to fame, only one, he could cut on a dime and run like the wind, suddenly was no longer allowed to play the game.
It stung me.
Stung?
It stung, it shocked me.
Did it hurt you?
Yeah, it hurt. Definitely hurt, because like I said, football was basically my life. Thrived in football. And from that point in time on, my life just went downhill. I really started missing the books then. And
not studying?
Not studying at all, and basically I went to that street life then, you know.
Drugs, alcohol?
Drugs, alcohol. Not every day, but that became a big part of Tony's life.
He was drinking more and smoking pot and using cocaine, and finally, Tony ended up in court and then in prison. Let me explain. 6 months after he was kicked off the football team, Tony had an accident. While driving a friend's car, he hit a boy on a bicycle. The boy wasn't seriously hurt, so Tony just drove away. A few hours later, he was arrested for reckless driving and leaving the scene of an accident. A few days later, he was convicted and sentenced to 30 months probation. But Tony didn't like probation, didn't like checking in once a week with a probation officer who said Tony was uncooperative and defiant.
He thought he was treated unfairly. He thought the program was unfair. But you got to remember that Tony's never been really disciplined. Nobody told him when, how, and what. And this intensive probation program, that's the key to it. We tell you when, how, and what, when to be home, when to report, to go to school, to work.
He was a big hero in a small town. He didn't take probation seriously, he told me. And besides, getting good grades, being home every night at 11, constantly checking in with his probation officer, that wasn't nearly as much as drinking, doing drugs, getting high with his friends. So the judge revoked probation, and now Tony works on a prison gang, repairing a bridge over a swamp in South Georgia. It's hard work, and there's no applause. Nobody cares about how fast you were, how many touchdowns you scored, how great you might have been. Here, you're just another strong back with a number and no first name. There's a lesson here about the special vulnerability of athletes to drugs and alcohol. Some, like Tony, feel good about only one thing in life, those 60 minutes on the playing field, the glory of the game. The touchdowns, the cheers of the crowd produce a kind of natural high. Take that away from an athlete, especially the star, and some will search desperately for another way to get high.
There's something else here about the danger of drugs. Aside from the physical and emotional harm done to you and your family, there is also the question of pride, of right and wrong, and reputation.
It may seem harsh, but some people will remember only one thing about Steve Howe's life, that he broke the law, used cocaine, and became an addict. And Charles White may run for 1,000 yards every year forever. Still some, especially in Cleveland, won't be able to hear his name without thinking of those disappointing years, the years he used cocaine. And there won't be many kids at Fontana High School who will remember Todd Dickerson, but the ones that do won't think of baseball or football. What they'll remember is drugs. And there are thousands of kids like Tony Anderson for whom little will be said, but what a waste. Think of what he might have been. Your name and reputation are both precious and fragile. Become a drug user, and that label may follow you forever. On the other hand, there are a great many athletes who will never have that problem, like the proud right fielder for the Atlanta Braves, Dale Murphy. Mention his name a decade from now, and all of us will smile and say this man played baseball. 7 times elected to the All-Star team, 5 consecutive Gold Glove awards, the league's most valuable player 2 years in a row. Dale told me he'd never used drugs, mostly because of children, ours and his own.
First of all, I'd think about my family, and second of all, the kids and the people that watch professional athletes. Regardless of players' feelings, there are a lot of kids that look up to the athletes, and I feel players have responsibilities in that way.
This man would say the same. For 6 consecutive years, an NBA All-Star, the all-time leading scorer for the Denver Nuggets, Alex English. Only 14 men in the history of basketball have done what he's done, scored over 20,000 points in their career. Alex has every right to be proud because of his records, because despite so many opportunities, he's never used drugs.
I'm very proud of that because I have been in the NBA during the span when drug use was at its peak. You know, we see it going down, or it's gone down a great deal now, but I was here during the peak, and, you know, it makes me proud to know that I withstood the charge.
And this proud girl has done the same. In the last 2 years, Janet Evans has been tested for drugs 19 times on 3 different continents. And every time the results were negative. She doesn't use drugs. She doesn't need them. She refuses to let them destroy what is the greatest moment in an athlete's life. Victory before the eyes of the world. in the Olympic Games.
Janet Evans has put away the East German threat, and Janet Evans goes to the wall with a world record time. She snatched her world record and wins Olympic gold for the second time here in Seoul.
Imagine her joy. Wearing her nation's flag, she won 3 gold medals and swam the fastest 400-meter freestyle in history. And she did it with hard work and pure talent, without drugs, without the fear that 2 days later drugs would disqualify her. Think how proud we are. Think how proud she must be. Simply put, athletes are heroes, role models. They teach by example. And it's not just the pros, the celebrities. In every high school in America, there is respect, even reverence for the football quarterback, the home run hitter, the track star. And that means in the fight against drugs, every athlete, even the youngest, has a responsibility, an opportunity to help.
I have never seen a kid yet that did not want to help, was not willing to help their friends, other kids in the neighborhood, younger brothers and sisters. They assist them in many ways in growing up. One of the ways that they can assist, if they're an athlete, is by choosing not to use drugs, because these younger people will be looking up to them, and that's a real responsibility there.
One last story before we go. An athlete who isn't famous like Alex English, who isn't rich like Dale Murphy. And yet, in the 800-meter race, she is ranked 6th in the nation. Her best indoor time is the 2nd fastest in the world. And Rose Monday doesn't use drugs, never has. Even when one of her track coaches ordered her to take steroids, she refused because she believes in her ability and that one day that ability will take her to the Olympic Games.
When I win my medal, I'm going to be bawling my eyes out, because just knowing that I did that all by myself, that, you know, you didn't cheat to do that, you did it. And heck, if I don't win a medal, I'm still happy with how far, you know, how much I've achieved. I could never stand up there and feel proud of myself for winning a medal after I've cheated or taking, you know, steroids or drugs or blood doping or anything else.
I could never stand up there and feel proud of myself, she says, because using drugs breaks the law, risks your health, your talent, sometimes even your life. It brings pain to your friends and family, disgrace to your name. And in this, Rose offers a lesson to every athlete, even the youngest. She offers a lesson to all of us.